Good evening. Welcome to California Today. I'm David Zhang. Here's a preview of some of today's top stories. Governor Gavin Newsom vetoes a bill that would require courts to consider gender affirmation in court custody battles. But he signs a bill mandating gender-neutral bathrooms in schools. Law enforcement groups are urging the governor to veto a bill that will legalize psychedelic drugs. The bill is already on his desk. Southern California's Venice Beach is facing a growing problem with homelessness. Locals say it's led to an explosion in crime and people moving out. California's governor vetoed a bill that would have required courts to consider parents' affirmation of their child's gender in custody cases. At the same time, he signs a different bill that will require gender-neutral bathrooms in schools. NTD's Eileen Ang has more.
Governor Gavin Newsom vetoed AB 957, which would require gender identity to be considered in custody battles. In a statement late Friday night, Newsom said, "A court under existing law is required to consider a child's health, safety, and welfare when determining the best interests of a child in these proceedings, including the parent's affirmation of the child's gender identity. For these reasons, I cannot sign this bill." Critics have called out AB 957, saying children barely know how to make decisions on a daily basis, so letting them make permanent decisions on themselves could hurt them in the long run.
Alcohol, register to vote, fight in our military. When you can't do any of that until you're 18 or 21, why is it acceptable that our children can have irreversible surgeries that then require medications for the rest of their life?
We applaud the governor for vetoing that bill. That was the right move. Unfortunately, there are radicalized judges and social workers and school officials who are not waiting for a law. They're getting out ahead of it, and they are deeming parents who don't go along with the LGBTQ affirmative agenda to be unfit parents.
The overall message is that each citizen in California needs to stand up if they want to save the next generation of children, and that we have the power and the know-how to stop these bills, as we showed with stopping AB 957.
However, Newsom signed a different gender-related bill into law this past weekend. Schools serving 1st through 12th grade must now have at least one gender-neutral bathroom available for students by 2026. The bill comes amid debates in California and elsewhere about the rights of transgender and non-binary students, including whether teachers should notify parents if their child changes pronouns at school.
Some law enforcement and community leaders are urging Governor Newsom to veto a bill that will legalize psychedelic drugs. They said the substances are harmful and the proposed law would decrease public safety. NTD's David Lamb has the details.
I represent all elected sheriffs in the state of California. I can tell you that we strongly oppose this bill.
Leaders in law enforcement sent letters to California Governor Gavin Newsom this month regarding Senate Bill 58, legalization of psychedelics, which is on the governor's desk. They say it's a danger to human society.
Dealing with people who are high on hallucinogens and/or any other types of drug poses severe issues which are alarming for law enforcement.
In a webinar on Monday, leaders in healthcare, victim groups, and community organizations spoke against SB 58, which would legalize the possession of psilocybin in small amounts, a substance found in magic mushrooms. The author, State Senator Scott Wiener, says California's veterans, first responders, and others struggling with PTSD, depression, and addiction deserve access to these promising plant medicines.
We should not ask our veterans to try the psychedelics to be guinea pigs.
Some, like Sheriff Boudreaux, worry that law enforcement may need more funding to train officers on handling increases in substance-related incidents. Others say the bill could be the first major step in legalizing all illegal drugs in California. They're concerned for college campuses.
But I would point out that for juveniles, those under 18, guess what? Possession is only an infraction. That's not enough of a criminal hurdle to keep them from using.
Infractions can result in a fine, but not jail time.
People presume that the government is taking care of them, but in many cases, the laws are passed for different reasons.
It's fine that these things may have some kind of a medical use in a medical setting, but that's the only place for it. The rest of it is brain damaging.
The bill also legalizes the growing of any spores or mycelium capable of producing mushrooms or other materials that contain psilocybin. If signed by Newsom, the bill would take effect by January 2025. In Santa Clara, California, David Lamb, NTD News.
Now we have a special report on Venice Beach. It's an area known for its tourist hotspots and laid-back culture. But in recent years, a serious problem threatens the LA enclave, increasing homelessness and crime. NTD teams up with our sister media, the Epoch Times, to investigate the situation. Here's the Epoch Times' John Fredericks with the story.
This is John Fredericks with the Epoch Times, and today we are discussing the current situation of Venice Beach, California in regard to homelessness and rising crime rates.
According to locals, the neighborhood has always attracted an out-of-state homeless population, but they shared with me that the number of unhoused citizens, quote, exploded during the pandemic along with organized crime.
What have you noticed along the streets going on here?
Well, the biggest increase, which we're going to see right now, is really sort of RVs moving in. Prior to COVID, you had to move your RV at least once a week for street cleaning. And so with COVID happening, we stopped enforcing that. So a lot of these RVs have been here for about 3 years now, since March of 2020. And with that, we've seen sort of RVs catching fire.
According to Soledad, areas that were once a hotspot for major homeless encampments have now since dispersed, but are now spread throughout the neighborhoods.
Really, this is a mental health crisis. Drug addiction is very much involved. And our city officials, they continue to treat it as a housing crisis. So what we see is that there's encampments, they sprawl up, they're moved, they're placed into temporary shelter, but eventually people come out of the shelter and they come right back onto the streets. They start using drugs again.
Some residents have even taken matters into their own hands.
And so over here we have some rocks. So this is what some would consider anti-homeless architecture. You can't put up tents there, obviously. These rocks are cemented into the ground.
But along Venice Boulevard, RV encampments are still a common sight. Many campers even have welcome mats placed upon them on the Los Angeles public sidewalks at their entryways. One property owner said the uptick in crime throughout his neighborhood has had a negative impact on the community, leading to many people leaving.
A lot of people are trying to hold on for the goodwill and for the amount of time that they've been here and to service their community that they love. The ones that aren't able to afford that are, they got problems, rampant problems of crime, shoplifting, daily problems of getting homeless people off their doorstep or keeping them away from their businesses.
For his friend Yolanda Gonzalez, she and her neighbors have experienced an onslaught of crime due to the homeless crisis, ranging from trespassings to arson.
I went out one day because they were defecating behind my property, and I said, this is terrible. What did I do? I went to the dollar store over here, the 99-cent store. I went and bought them brooms, racks, and how to pick up the trash. I said, you guys, if you want to be here, I feel sorry for you, but clean up. So one day, Sean and I were sitting out there. We saw Loxa come in. They came in with Home Depot buckets, and what did they have in those buckets?
Every drug paraphernalia you would want to use, whether you were housed or unhoused.
Gonzalez and O'Brien say poor leadership and a lack of fiscal responsibility are worsening the problem.
Up to $17,000 a month for one person. Most of these people are not from California. They're coming here to game the system, and it's we, the taxpayers, who are paying for it and are losing our city services. It's unfortunate, but Venice is a containment zone.
Even during the interview conducted in a public storage facility, one homeless male trespassed into the building unannounced and disappeared into a restroom area for nearly 25 minutes.
We've maintained a very close-knit community of people that we fight this right now, but it's more than anything else, it's fear.
Upon leaving, we found a small pile of trash wadded up on top of the sink. There was also a leather glove, commonly used to help individuals prepare methamphetamine for drug use.
Now, one thing that changes quite a bit in Venice Beach is where one encampment moves, another pops up. According to residents, the word on their mind is fear. Fear to go to the grocery store, fear to walk to the car, and fear to leave anything in their vehicles. This is John Fredericks, Epoch Times, Venice Beach.
We'll take a short break now, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. It's official, Governors Newsom and DeSantis are set to debate soon. We'll have details on the place and time. Hollywood striking writers have reached a tentative deal with studios. This is a major step in ending months-long strike. A judge strikes down California's ban on high-capacity magazines for guns. He says the ban is a violation of the Second Amendment. Those stories and more coming up on California Today. Welcome back to California Today. I'm your host, David Zhang. Two rival U.S. statesmen set to clash again, this time face-to-face. California Governor Gavin Newsom and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis are debating soon, with the Fox News hosting. The event will take place on November 30th in Georgia, and talk show host Sean Hannity will be the moderator. A showdown between the two has been in the works for months, since both governors agreed to a debate earlier this summer. Despite the speculations of a 2024 presidential run, Newsom recently said that he would not compete against President Biden. Newsom and DeSantis have been at odds with each other on multiple issues, including border security and the handling of illegal immigrants. Elon Musk pledges he will make a large financial contribution to unseat a San Francisco official amid citywide crime, drug, and homeless crisis. NTD's Jason Blair has more.
On Friday, Musk said he will donate $100,000 to a campaign working to oust San Francisco Supervisor Dean Preston. Musk's social media company X, formerly known as Twitter, has their headquarters in the city. Preston is facing criticism for posting on X that San Francisco should start a large campaign encouraging tourists to not leave anything in their cars to avoid car break-ins, an issue that has been deemed an epidemic in the city. Y Combinator CEO Gary Tan, in response to Dean Preston's post, said that he donated $50,000 to a campaign called the Dump Dean PAC, aimed at removing the Democratic Socialist official. Musk replied to Tan saying, quote, "I will double that." At the time of this broadcast, Preston's post has gained almost 5 million views. For critics, it seems to touch on a bigger subject, arguing that this and similar thinking that seems to blame victims and cater to criminals have contributed to the city's crime issues. In response to critics, Preston told ABC 7 that his post was taken out of context and that the city should take a multifaceted way to improve the break-in problem. Last month, the San Francisco police announced new tactics to combat car break-ins, including using bait cars. SFPD also has a campaign to warn visitors not to leave valuables in their vehicles. Reporting in San Francisco, Jason Blair, NTD News.
The Screenwriters Union has reached an agreement with the Hollywood studios, raising hopes that their historic strike may finally come to an end. NTD's Christina Corona has more on the story.
After 5 intense days of revived negotiations involving the Writers Guild of America, major studios, and streamers, a 3-year contract agreement has been reached, ending a strike that took a heavy toll on the entertainment industry. The WGA, in conjunction with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, the group that represents studios, streaming services, and production companies, jointly announced their tentative agreement Sunday. This news has sparked hope that the long pause in making movies and TV shows might soon come to an end.
The WGA West posted on X, the agreement was made possible by the enduring solidarity of WGA members and extraordinary support of our union siblings, who joined us on the picket lines for over 146 days. In a guild message shared on social media, riders were instructed to not return to work until further notice, while picketing was to be halted immediately. The strike's official conclusion hinges on approval from the guild's board and its members, a process that could happen this week.
Before it can even go to the members to vote to end the strike, it needs to go to a couple of committees to agree on both the East and West Coast of America, which will happen on Tuesday.
The specific terms of the agreement have not been disclosed at this time. However, some of the divided issues have been pay, the use of artificial intelligence, and the streaming of shows.
And so the riders have come out. These deals happen every 3 years in any case. And what's happened is the industry has changed so much that this has become the most crucial deal for decades. And as we know, streamers have not necessarily left their numbers to the public to know. So there's been arguments over the residual payments, what actors and writers and filmmakers in general should get paid when their films are shown again and again.
And thoughts on Hollywood writers' deals in the future.
It seems like the studios and streamers have now come to an understanding, which can only be good for the industry going forward. And with this deal being struck, I don't imagine in 3 years we're going to see another strike. It will just be tiny changes to the deal rather than the major date changes we're seeing today.
The agreement came just 5 days before the strike would have become the longest in the Guild's history. And while the actors are still on strike, the writers' agreement could pave the way for a resolution in their negotiations as well. Christina Corona, NTD News, Los Angeles.
A federal judge ruled that California's ban on high-capacity magazines is unconstitutional. The ban had applied to magazines that hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition. But the judge says it violates the Second Amendment rights of firearm owners.
U.S. District Judge Roger Benitez in San Diego said California's sweeping ban went too far by preventing people from using high-capacity magazines for lawful purposes, including self-defense. In a 71-page decision, he wrote, "The history and tradition of the Second Amendment clearly supports state laws against the use or misuse of firearms with unlawful intent, but not the disarmament of the law-abiding citizen." Benitez cited a June 2022 decision by the U.S. Supreme Court, New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin. That ruling requires firearm restrictions to be consistent with this nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. California Attorney General Rob Bonta, who enforces the state's laws, appealed the decision to the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco. He said Californians need to be kept safe from weapons enhancements that are designed to cause mass casualties. The U.S. Supreme Court was clear that Bruin did not create a regulatory straitjacket for states, and we believe that the district court got this wrong. We will move quickly to correct this incredibly dangerous mistake. Benitez delayed enforcing his injunction against the law for 10 days to give Bonta time to seek a stay.
Now let's check in with NTD's Carlos Reyes for our sports roundup.
We have some exciting scores to go over today. This is your California Sports Roundup, and I'm Carlos Reyes. The San Jose Earthquakes and Nashville SC finished with a 1-1 draw at home on Saturday night at PayPal Park. Forward Matthew Hope has scored in 2 consecutive appearances to help the Quakes earn a point at home. Here's what head coach Luchi Gonzalez had to say post-game.
We're still in a position to control our destiny and as much as possible, and you're right, we gotta find a way to get more points on the road now against Minnesota, who I know their home form is different than their away, but they're a very good team and they have very good players, so we have to be ready to show our best.
San Jose nearly opened the scoring in the 36th minute when forward Cade Cowell struck the crossbar just inches from the top corner. Both sides would trade blows but end the first half scoreless. Nashville opened the scoring in the second half, but the Quakes found the equalizer in the 75th from Matthew Hope. A low cross from Carlos Acapo found Hope unguarded with space to fire right into the top corner. San Jose built on the momentum and fired 4 shots in less than a minute just after scoring. The Earthquakes will now continue to fight for a slot in the playoffs when they face Minnesota United FC on Saturday, September 30th. Kickoff from Allianz Field is slated for 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. LeBron James may have sat out the last 2 Olympics, but the NBA's all-time leading scorer is interested in making a return to the international stage with USA Basketball at the 2024 Paris Games. Citing unnamed sources, ESPN said James is among a number of top players who are interested in competing in Paris, while The Athletic said the Los Angeles Lakers forward has already called multiple stars in a bid to recruit them. Imagine that. James has not played for Team USA since he won a gold medal at the 2012 London Olympics. The 38-year-old James, a 3-time Olympian and 2-time gold medalist, reached out to Kevin Durant, among others, and the 2 players are viewing the Paris Games as a last dance with USA Basketball, sources told The Athletic. According to The Athletic, James has also spoken to Stephen Curry, Anthony Davis, Jason Tatum, and Draymond Green, who are all prepared to commit as well. That is it for today's sports. Thank you for watching. I'm Carlos Reyes.
Thanks, Carlos. That's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcasts at ntd.com/California-today. You can also find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with friends and family. Send us a message on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Ganjin World, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.